The sound of a plate shattering against the tiled floor cut through the diner like a gunshot, freezing every fork midair and every breath in every chest. Sunlight streamed through the wide front windows, catching dust in the air as heads slowly turned toward the corner booth. That was the moment everything changed. A young waitress stood perfectly still, shoulders squared, eyes steady, her hands trembling just enough to show she was human. Across from her sat a man known across the city for owning towers, companies, and power. She had just drawn a line no one else ever dared to draw. And the look on his face said he had never been spoken to that way in his life, that if you believe that kindness deserves a second chance and that courage can come from the most unexpected places, take a moment right now to like this video, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Good Deed Stories. Stories like this remind us why humanity still matters. Her name was Maren Cole, and she had been awake since 5 that morning, packing a peanut butter sandwich for her son before walking him to the neighbor's apartment. Daytime shifts paid less, but they allowed her to be home before dark, and that mattered more than money. The diner smelled of coffee, syrup, and old memories, the kind of place where retired couples lingered and truckers stopped before long hauls. Maren had worked there for 3 years, long enough to know which booths got the best light and which customers tipped in coins. She wore her exhaustion quietly, the way single parents learn to do, smiling even when her feet burned and her thoughts spiraled toward overdue bills and school forms she didn't understand. The man everyone whispered about had walked in just after noon. Conrad Hale. Even without headlines or bodyguards, people felt him before they saw him. He carried authority the way others carried wallets. His tailored suit clashed with the chipped tables, and yet he looked like he belonged everywhere. He sat, glanced once around the room, and from the first moment, his presence bent the air. Maren was assigned his table, not by choice, but by rotation. She approached with her pad, reminding herself that money didn't make someone less human. What unfolded over the next half hour chipped away at her patience piece by piece. Every request came sharp and loud, his voice cutting across the diner, snapping fingers, correcting things that didn't need correcting. Coffee too hot, toast too pale, a napkin folded wrong. Each time, Maren apologized, even when she felt her chest tighten. People watched, uncomfortable but silent. They always were. Powerful men did not get challenged in places like this. The breaking point came when his voice rose again, louder than before, echoing off the windows. Something inside Maren shifted. It wasn't anger alone. It was exhaustion layered on dignity, fear mixed with self-respect. She thought of her son waiting at home, of the lessons she wanted him to learn. She straightened, met his eyes, and said the words that would ripple through the room and into the lives of everyone present. She warned him calmly that if he raised his voice at her again, it would end. No apology, no shaking voice, just truth. Silence followed, thick and electric. Someone near the counter held their breath. A spoon stopped mid-stir. The manager took a step forward, panic flashing across his face. No one had ever spoken to Conrad Hale like that, not in public, not anywhere. His reaction, when it came, was not what anyone expected. He leaned back in his seat slowly, eyes narrowing not with rage, but with something closer to surprise. His jaw clenched, then relaxed. He looked at Maren, really looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time. Not a waitress, not a background figure, a person. The room waited for an explosion, for a threat, for consequences. Instead, Conrad did something that felt impossible. He lowered his voice. From that moment on, the air changed. The tension didn't vanish, but it softened, like a storm that decides not to break. He finished his meal quietly. Maren continued her shift, heart still pounding, expecting at any moment to be called into the office and fired. She replayed the scene in her head again and again, wondering if bravery had just cost her the little stability she had. But the day moved on. Plates were cleared. New customers arrived. The sunlight shifted across the floor. Conrad paid his bill and left without another word. No scene, no compla. The next morning, Maren was called into the diner early. She barely slept, already planning how she would explain things to her son if she lost her job. The manager stood stiffly near the counter, avoiding her eyes. A man in a suit stood beside him. Not Conrad, but someone just as polished. Papers lay neatly on the counter,